and a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope you're well today, hope you're feeling grand, and all's well in the world. Hi. Very smooth that was, wasn't it? It was Jazz Club. Nice. Anyway, what we're doing at A&Q Wednesday, I forgot where I was, because I was just thinking about Jazz Club, Ben. So what tune are you going to play for us tonight? Tune? This is jazz! Now, if anybody doesn't know what that is, I'm not having a dig at jazz, that's actually a comedy sketch. Anyway, moving along. Let's get to A&Q Wednesday today, shall we? Yes, let's go. He's a weird one. Okay, so this might be a bit of a weird one today, everybody. He's in a stupid mood. Okay, moving along. So, question one today is... That was very aggressive, is. Stop it, just get on with the question. As your playing has evolved over the years, have you changed plectrum, pick size, shape and thickness? And do you have a brand or size you always stick with, or do you change as the mood strikes you? So when I first started playing guitar, the first plectrums I had were my dad's old credit cards. We used to cut them up. I've just realised the camera's a bit wonky. That's better. That was it. Because when I got my first electric guitar, I don't think it even came with a plectrum. So I remember using a credit card, like an old cut-up credit card into like a shape of a plectrum. I remember the first real plectrum I ever got, I actually stole from my uncle. Shh, don't tell him. I've still got it actually. It's glued to my wardrobe, and it was just an old plectrum, but it glowed in the dark, and it was like an alien head, and I've still got it. And it was really thin. It was probably about 0.50 millimeter. Really, really thin, and I liked that over the credit card because I always found the credit card had no give, and I didn't like that from the get-go. I always found it kind of hard to play with, like a thick pick. Anyway, so that was my first real plectrum. Was a really bendy one, and then obviously finding John Frusciante within the first month or two of playing guitar. And getting the guitar magazine where it told you what he used, I found that John used these. No, not them ones. I found that John used them. The orange 0.60mm Tortex Dunlop picks. So John used these, and does use these as far as I know to this day. And so I immediately, when I got a chance to... I remember... I think the first one I bought of these, and again, I've still got that one as well, people of the tube. That's how sad of a person I am. I still have my first ever orange pick. It's got a Ferrero Rocher sticker on it for some reason. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I was in a local city to me called Lincoln, and there was a guitar shop there, and I bought one just to see what it was like, and that thus started the obsession with these .60s. It was John Frusciante's fault. And basically, every time I've moved away from a .60s, for a period of time I used .50. I still like the .50s, but not as much as these 60s. And I also went up to, I really like these. Where are they? A YouTube fan gave me loads of plectrums, and in those loads of plectrums was these jazz-free Eric Johnson ones. And I really like these plectrums. Not as much as these, but these are nice. And these, I can play really fast with these. Like, ridiculously fast with these. But the problem I have is... I'm so used to these, because I've been using them since day dot of me playing guitar, that whenever I go away from them... Because, like I said, I've tried the .50s. I've tried 73s. Yellow ones. I think maybe yellow. The next one up from is, I think it's .73. That's what Mike McCready uses. Others might use the green ones. I forget. I can't remember. Anyway, but either way, every time I move away and then I come back to these, it's just like that's where I belong. You know, there's something about. I mean, I go through these like nobody's business. A plectrum like this will probably last about a week, and then I'll have to throw it away. I wonder how much money I've spent on these plectrums over the years. It does make me wonder. And strings as well. Does anyone ever thought of that? Like, you sit down and go think, how much money have I spent on strings in my guitar playing life? But I burn through these like wildfire, but every time I use something else and then come back to these just feel the best. They just feel right, and they just feel like an extension. They don't feel like anything, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's like when I go to the Eric Johnson picks, I'm well aware of what it is. When I go to a .50s, I'm well aware of what it is. But the .60s, because, like I say, because I've used them for such a long period of time, they're just, and again, it's just like a guitar. It's just an extension of me. And these are just where I belong. So I have experimented with different thicknesses and size as well. My brother got some Gypsy Jazz picks, which are really, really thick. They're like tree ball extra strong mints. And I really like them as well, but they're ridiculous. They're about that big. I don't have I've got one that's downstairs, but it's really, really thick. And that's really good for playing really fast. But because I kind of want to get away from playing super, super fast, I don't mind playing fast if it has a reason, but I don't want to play fast all the time. And it kind of really thick picks like the Eric Johnson and the Gypsy Jazz pick kind of enable me to do that. And I don't like being enabled to do that. I like to be able to kind of like steer away from that. And these plectrums give me the ability, if I want to play fast with a .60, I can. But they don't make me feel like I want to, which I like. You know, it's not because the pick has too much give or anything like that. It's just the way it makes me feel. It's the way it sounds or feels. You know, it's just that's the way it is. But yeah. So different size. Yeah, I mean, I've tried the bass picks, the big triangular ones that Darren Malakian uses and Devon Townsend uses. But I don't get on with them. There's too much surface area. I don't get on with them at all. Jazz Freeze, tried Jazz Freeze, which is technically what the Eric Johnsons are. I've tried all sorts of other stuff, but I always come back to these. Much in the same way, if I'm changing string brands, if I mess around with string brands, I always come back to Diodario and go, there you are. You know what I mean? Some of my guitars have Ernie balls on them at this point in time, just because that's all I could get at that point in time. And they just don't sound or feel right. Like playing Mr. Oswald Telly here today, in all fairness, these are the strings the guitar came with. I still haven't changed them because I don't need to. They sound great. You know, they're really worn in. You know, they're not dead. You know, well they are dead, but they're happy dead. That's where I want them to be. But they're still the strings the guitar came with, which I love. The actual string, you won't be able to see it, but I don't know. Maybe you might actually. I don't know. If you look really closely inside the string furrows in the back, there's just like the ball ends of the strings are just surrounded by dust and fluff and dirt and God knows what else in there. There's probably like a small little colony of very small people living in each furrow. But because I haven't changed the strings on this guitar, just gunk and stuff has just settled in there, and I haven't cleaned it out. It's pretty gross. But, when the string breaks, I'll change them, but not until, because they feel and they sound great. I really love them. And it goes for string brands, string gauges as well, actually. When I go, I like 9s and 10s. Certain guitars will work better with 10s, certain of my guitars will work better with 9s. I found that I really love 9s on my Red Oswald. I really love 10s on the Telly here. I like 10s on the Chapman there. I prefer 9s on the new Chapman, the Pro, the X. What was it? Oh, Pro X. I prefer 9s on that. I don't like the 10s on that one. The Chapman T-Type, that's got 10s on it, but that's in open C. So that kind of works well. Mr. White doesn't care. 9s or 10s, happy either way. The 62 likes 10s only. I tried 9s on the 62 and it just rebelled. It was like, no, put 10s on me immediately, boy, otherwise you're not paying me again. It was literally like that. It was sat in the corner and it was just been horrible to me. And, I gave it 10s and it was fine. We're all okay now. Did think of going on Jeremy Kyle, but then I realised it doesn't exist anymore, so we couldn't. Anyway, but yeah, coming back to pick size before I get totally lost. But yeah, I'm a creature of habit. I mean, I've said that a million trillion times, and once I find something that works for me, I just glue myself to it, and I don't change. You know what I mean? It's very hard for me to change because I'm not very good with it. It doesn't. It's just the way I'm wired. I'm not very good with change. I fear change. And so these point 60s, my happy place. They really are. Like I said, I kill them massively. Invariably, if I do a gig with these point 60s, by the end of the gig, these plectrums are knackered. They're done. I mean, there are occasions where I'll find one that's just a little bit tougher. There are sometimes where the plastic's a little bit weaker and they wear down really fast. But there have been some plectrums I've had that have gone 2 or 3 or 4 gigs, and then I've changed it. But like I say, I mean, I don't care about that too much because these just feel right to me. And the weird thing is, I grab them in such a way that they eventually bend in the middle. I don't know if you can. It's kind of happened to this one. I don't know. I really don't think you'll be able to see it, but especially not with a fisheye lens. But they bend in the middle, so they curve up like that because the way I grip it, I push it into my thumb. So they bend and they just like mold themselves to my finger, kind of the way I hold a pick, and I really like that. So it feels really good. Yeah, I really don't think you'll be able to see it. If I can balance it, maybe. I highly doubt you'll be able to see the curve of it. Maybe I can kind of see that on the LCD screen. Actually, it's kind of like, you know, it kind of fishtails, kind of like, you know, it kind of curves up and dips in the middle. Anyway, but no, I mean the Dunlop point 60s. The orange ones, they've always been my happy place. I do every now and again play with other ones. The Eric Johnson ones, I really like the Eric Johnson Jazz Freeze. There's some other picks I really, really like as well. But invariably, yay, that's where we go. I don't really like to mess around too much, to be honest with that. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to question 2, everybody. So, question 2, let's put that plectrum back up there. And, yeah, because if I drop it, you know what'll happen? It'll just disappear, you know, and it'll go into the nether. Go into the other, and then it's gone forever. You know, there's a couple of pence down the drain. Damn it. Anyway, so moving on. Question 2. I'm in a bit of a stupid mood today, so I do apologise to you. Okay, so question 2 today is, what would you recommend tweaking on a HSS Strat to get John Frusciante's tone? Mainly pickup height. Your humbucker, you're going to struggle with the humbucker to get a John tone. It's not impossible, but it's never going to be quite as right as a normal single coil. But for John's tone, you want the pickups low. I mean, super low. You look at his 62, and the pickups are low in that guitar. You know what I mean? They're almost, the neck pickup is pretty much flush with the scratch plate. And if you've got HSS Strat, I mean, I would recommend sinking the humbucker as low as it can go without falling off the bobbin, the screws, not the bobbin. You know, I would sink the humbucker as far as it will go. To get it as clean as possible. But the only problem with sinking a humbucker is you tend to lose brightness sometimes. Not all the time, but invariably that sometimes happens, where if a humbucker's kind of middle or high, when it's high, it's got kind of a lot of kind of presence to it. The moment you sink it, it kind of goes, and it's like somebody's got hold of its mouth and it just doesn't sing. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. And I've covered this in my John Frusciante series anyway, about pickup height and all that kind of thing. But you've got to think about John's pickups. They're always very low on his 62, and that's the sound we mainly know. His 55 had higher pickups. His 55 pickups are actually really high. But that could be due to the fact of that guitar maybe has lower output to the 62. Maybe there's, you know, because... you know, the pickups in that guitar apparently been SSL ones by Seymour Duncan. I found when I used SSL ones that having them low, they sounded naff. Having them high, really close to the strings, they sounded better. They still, to me, sounded cack, but that's me. I just don't like them. I don't really like Seymour Duncan pickups. They just don't do it for me. And, you know, they just sound a bit lifeless to me sometimes. I mean, they sound good. You know what I mean? They're a good tone. But they just sound lifeless, you know. Anyway, yeah, you've got to get your pickup heights right. That's the only thing I would really tweak. You know, you need a kind of medium to high-ish action. You don't want a stupid, you know, we're not talking Rory Gallagher, Steve Ray Vaughan height on the action. But you do need the strings quite off the fretboard. You know, you don't want it stupidly low or anything like that. But it's mainly down to the pickups. You know, you want those pickups low, and especially if you've got a humbucker in there, you got to sink that humbucker as far as it will go, so it'll still make a sound. But you got to be careful with it. And also angling the pickups as well, so they're not flat like that. So this is the treble side, that's the bass side. Sync the bass side more than the treble side. Like I said, I've got a video on this in my John Frusciante series. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend. I mean, more than anything is pickup height. It's really important because if your pickups are low, you can drive your amp harder and you can push pedals harder into the amp without the guitar adding any unwanted distortion. The guitar is just clean as can be if the pickups are sunk, so it's always a good thing to do, especially for John's tone. And then just use the amp or the pedal to push it and kick it, which is what I always do now. I never play. Well, I very, 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 very rarely ever play a guitar straight into an amp totally clean. It's always got some grit and dirt to it. I don't like. I never really like playing clean anyway. It always used to get on my nerves, and I was always like, it doesn't feel like it's got any power, and it always used to get on my nerves. So I eventually, once I found the jackhammer and the golden plexi, initially I found it through a tube screamer. Once I found they did what they did, I was just like, yes, that's the one. So that's what I would say. That's what I would definitely say. Okay, going to move on to question 3 now, everybody. So, question 3. In the Red Hot Chili Peppers song Minor Thing off By the Way, what do you think John used for his guitar sound, amp, guitar and pedals? And for the short solo, do you think it's the DS2 or one of his amps? Okay, so for Minor Thing, it's pretty well documented what John used now. I remember reading a magazine at the time, which I still had, which I wish I still had. Great English, mate. And John basically said he used his 62 Strat for basically that entire album, apart from Can't Stop, which was his Telecaster, and the solo in Tear, which is the Gretsch White Falcon with both pickups on, in the switch in the middle. And you can tell that's the White Falcon. It's got a real kind of like hold its nose kind of honk, Gretsch honk, which is great. And so for Minor Thing, it'd be a 62 Strat. Amp-wise, we're never going to know 100%, but I can guarantee it's a Silver Jubilee and a Marshall Major blended, or it could just be the Silver Jubilee. It could just be the Major. You know what I mean? To me, the sound of By the Way sounds like the Major is a lot more dominant than the Silver Jubilee. In all fairness, that entire tour, the By the Way tour, up to Hyde Park, I feel, Slane Castle, all those kind of early kind of By the Way gigs, I feel the Major is the more dominant tone on that tour. Californication, I feel the Jubilee has more of a dominant presence over the tone. It's more distorted, it's got more grit, it's got more kind of anger to it, it's got a bit more kind of like that. Whereas By the Way sounds cleaner. It's got a bit more of a plexi kind of, if you want, like plexi kind of clank. It's got that kind of more plexi kind of sound. So I would say that it's both amps blended, but I would say there's more of the Major in there than there is the Silver Jubilee. But it definitely sounds more like a plexi to me than the Jubilee. The Jubilee's got a bit more, like I said, a bit more grit to it than the Major, and the whole of By the Way sounds more plexi-esque. To me, I mean, that's just what my ears are telling me. I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with that, and that's totally cool. But again, that's where I sit with it. And again, the whole By the Way tour, to me, up to Hyde Park, seems to me that John's favouring the Major over the Jubilee in the mix. Whereas in Californication, it felt to me like if this is the Major and this is the Jubilee, it was like this. So the Jubilee was louder than the plexi, and the plexi was just kind of like backing it up. When they went into By the Way, it kind of flipped. It kind of went backwards. The scales tipped the other way. And then when they did Stadium Arcadium, they kind of balanced themselves. They were kind of like level. And you can kind of hear both. But again, that's me. I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree with me on that one. But that's what my ears are telling me. So as for the solo in Minor Thing, the little solo, it sounds like the DS2 to me. That entire period, John's DS2 is really warm sounding. Again, lending itself more to, I would say, the Major. It just sounds like he's using a DS2. It does not sound like a Jubilee or any other pedal to me. It sounds like net pickup, Stratocaster on with a DS2. You know, I don't think though that the pedal is cranked out on everything. It's definitely in mode 2, the mid-range mode, but I think the tone's back. I don't think the tone's all the way up, and I don't really think the level and the distortion are all the way up either, personally. I think it's dialed back a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't think it's cranked to the teeth. I really do think it's kind of dialed back a little bit and kind of a bit more kind of like tamed, if that makes any sense. Just for studio, really, because it doesn't. I mean, it screams. That solo screams, and it's one of my favourite John solos. It's just gorgeous and it's so perfect. You know, you couldn't do a better solo than that in that song. But to me, it definitely sounds like a DS2. Definitely sounds like a DS2. So, just to recap, it's definitely his 62 Strat. It's definitely going into either his Major or Jubilee, or both blended with Major on top. You know, taking control of it. And then it's definitely a DS2. In all fairness, he's probably running through his C1 chorus pedal as well, but he's probably not it's probably not out on. It's just using the preamp inside it just to kind of to add that thing that John likes with the C1. I mean, I don't think John ever really plugs into an amp, really, to be honest with you, without his C1. Yeah, there's always a C1 in there somewhere. So that's probably in the chain as well. So it's probably that. I mean, who knows? I mean, his pedal board in the studio, for by the way, who knows what it was comprised of? You know, it could have been probably changed every day. I can imagine John's a bit of a mad scientist when it comes down to things in the studio. Like, oh, it doesn't work. Let's put something else in. Oh, that's the one. You know, that kind of thing. So yeah. I would say it's definitely his DS2. It doesn't sound like an amp. It sounds like a pedal. It's got the warmth and the depth of a pedal. It doesn't have the gnarl of an amplifier. Definitely not. So, but again, we'll never know 100%, but I personally believe that's a DS2. Okay, so going to move on to final question of the day, people of YouTube. Question 4 now. Okay, so can you see that finger? Yes. I don't want to make it look like I did that and I'm stupid, because I am stupid, but I'm trying to pull back some kind of dignity. Anyway, question 4. So question 4 has a few different parts to it, so let's get going. Question 4. Do you watch football? No. I used to be obsessed with football when I was younger. I always wanted to be a goalkeeper for Liverpool. I was a big Liverpool supporter. So anybody from Liverpool, I supported Liverpool, like die-hard Liverpool supporter fan. I still have all my kits. I always got the goalkeeper kits. And I've got all of them, including the really horrible orange and black one, which looks gross. And in the summer, it would just attract flies, which was never good. But I always wanted to be a goalkeeper for Liverpool. That was the idea. That was what I wanted to do when I was really young. I used to love playing football and that kind of thing. But it just kind of, you know, then I kind of went. Everything at school happened. It just kind of like, you know, went away, you know. And in all fairness, I never really was very good at it. If I'm being perfectly honest, I was terrible. I was an awful goalkeeper. I was not very good anywhere else in football either. I'm just not very sporty. You know, I'm not that kind of person. You know, I don't have a very kind of like sporty mentality to get up and do that kind of thing. You know, I always wanted to be good at it, but I was never very good at it. You know, and it was always a kind of a thing for me of like, you know, started then of like, you're not good enough. Along with the joy of school, that was fun. That was when it all happened. So I always wanted to be good at it, but I never was. You know, I tried it for a long time to be good at football and be a great goalkeeper, and I just wasn't. But it was a little dream I had when I was younger of like, you know, I mean, I'm sure quite a lot of you know, young lads have that dream of like, I'm gonna play for my favourite team one day and do this, that, and the other. I always wanted to be a goalkeeper, but I don't know why. I always loved the idea of being a goalkeeper, and one day I'm gonna be David James. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I don't know. But I don't really watch it anymore. Like I say, I don't remember the last time I watched football, to be honest with you. But I remember I used to love it, but not anymore. You know, it just kind of like it fell by the wayside, and you know, just I don't really find it interesting anymore, like at all. It just doesn't interest me at all anymore. You know, yeah, it just kind of went. You know, that period came and went Because I remember like there was loads of like little things that I went through when I was young of like, I want to be this and I want to be that and I want to do this and I want to do that. And funny enough, not a single one of them was to do with music. Not a single one was to do with music. It wasn't until my sister taught me that first thing on guitar where I was like, I love this. I absolutely love this more than anything I've ever done. It was like an immediate click as well. It wasn't like, it was in that room right there where she showed me how to play Smoke on the Water. And I was just like, that's amazing. And again, here we are 19 years later on. 18 years? I don't know. 18 or 19 years later on, and I still love it as much as I did when I first picked up that guitar in that room. And just like, it's amazing to me. Amazing. I just, yeah. Love them to bits. But, and I'm actually okay at it, which is more than can be said of football. So if you ever play football with me, you're going to win. I'm crap at every sport, really, to be honest with you. I'm just rubbish at it. But anyway, so I don't really watch football anymore, no. Okay, so moving on to question 4, part B. Okay, so if you had to learn the guitar again from scratch, is there anything you would do differently? No, absolutely nothing. My entire playing life career, if you will, of playing the guitar, learning the guitar, I wouldn't change a single moment. It's been literally the best thing I've ever done in my life. I've loved every second of it, and it's just, makes me happy beyond whatever I thought I was capable of being happy about. So no, I would never change anything. I would never do anything differently to get me where I am now. If I had to start again from scratch, no, I wouldn't change a thing. I am happy with the way I learn and how I learn as well, which is mainly teaching myself. Because a lot of the things I wanted to do, like I've said in the past, no one around here knew how to do them. You know what I mean? My uncle didn't, my dad didn't, any guitar player we kind of knew had no idea how to do certain things. So I had to teach myself. I had to learn. There was no YouTube. I couldn't read tab because of my dyslexia. I can't do numbers. Can't read music because of dyslexia as well. So I couldn't do that. All I had was videos, DVDs, and basically the most amazingly massive desire to be as good as I can be on the guitar. And that hasn't changed since. You know what I mean? I still am nowhere near where I want to be with the guitar. You know what I mean? I am not. It's not good. It's not good enough yet. It's not good enough, and that's the point. I want to get better, and that's the point. So I know some people might have a bit of a thing about saying, "Oh, it's just stupid," but to me, it's not. That's exactly how I function. Is like everything I play is like that's okay, but that's not great. Today's intro jam, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing today's intro jam. I didn't. It just came from somewhere. This morning, that intro jam came into my head. These are the chords, Dave. It wants to sound like this. This is what you're going to do. And that's the guitar. It isn't a case of like I said, I'm not led by me. I'm led by music. I do what it wants me to do. I don't do what I want to do. I do what it wants me to do. So if it says that guitar, that pedal, this, and this, that's what you do. You know what I mean? I will obey it happily because it knows better than I do. It's better than I am at it. It's been around for ages, longer than I have, and it'll be around long after I'm gone. So it knows better than I do. So I'll just follow it. It's marionette, and I'm happy to be. But yeah. So coming back to the question, if I'd learn the guitar again, no, I wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely nothing. It's just been the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I've loved every second of it. And it's just, I just can't imagine anything. I can't imagine life without the guitar, and I don't want to. It's dark without the guitar. It really is. It's very, very dark. Anyway, but yeah. So yeah, I hope I answered the question. So the next part was, what are your thoughts on the band The Verve? I don't really have much thoughts on it. I never really listened to them apart from like the odd song. Obviously, I like Bittersweet Symphony and stuff like that. But they were never really a band much on my radar. They're a really good band. I think the lead guitarist is a bit rough sometimes. He tends to hit some very interesting notes because he seems to improvise but get kind of like in the wrong place, if that makes any sense. Like, there's some times where like you play some notes and you're like, is that the one you meant to hit? Because it just sounds a bit weird. I mean, maybe it is, but there are some times where I'm just kind of like a bit confuzzled by it. But he's a great guitarist, but there are certain note choices sometimes where I'm just like, meh. And Richard Ashcroft, amazing singer-songwriter. You know what I mean? His voice is insane. Absolutely insane. And I say some of the songs he's written are just insanely good as well, you know. So, but again, they weren't really a band that I was really into. You know, growing up in the 90s, the Verve weren't a band I really listened to. And they weren't really a band on my radar then, which brings me nice and neatly into the last part of question 4, is what was your favourite band? What was your favourite band from the Britpop era? And quite nicely to segue in, my favourite band was Oasis. You know, I grew up listening to Oasis. You know, I've still got singles, I've got all their albums. You know, and it's just like, and I still love playing their music and listening to their music. You know, I'll never not love listening to Supersonic or whatever, you know, it's all that kind of thing. That's the band that when I hear them reminds me of my childhood, reminds me of growing up, you know, in the 90s. You know, I remember watching them on Top of the Pops, and I remember like listening to Nebworth live on the radio in the bedroom with my brother. We listened to the whole thing live on Nebworth, and my brother actually taped it on tape and then taped over it, which he regrets doing, and rightly so. And we listened to it live happening, and it was so amazing. I remember my brother really, I remember him trying to tune the radio, trying to get it just right so it sounded good. And so yeah, I was an Oasis fan. I mean, I loved Oasis, and I still do love Oasis. Noel Gallagher, to me, is like one of the best songwriters, and in all fairness, an amazing guitarist to me. Noel is an amazing guitarist. Some of the riffs and mainly his guitar solos, what he comes out with, are just like insanely good. I mean, I know a lot of people think he's rubbish. To me, he's not. You know, I really think he's ridiculously special, and he is to me. You know what I mean? He's a massive part of my life and growing up. You know, he really is. And his songs take me back to a period of time that, you know, before all the ugliness came along. You know what I mean? It really did. You know, Oasis were there before that, and it kind of reminds me of kind of what that felt like to be before. Sorry, everyone. Was before all the ugliness kind of came into my life and things went dark. You know, it reminds me of the light. So when I listen to What's the Story, Morning Glory, especially, you know, it reminds me of that period of time. Same with Nirvana as well. I mean, I remember listening to Nirvana, Incesticide. You know, Incesticide is one of those albums that reminds me of growing up. You know, it really is. Same with Bleach as well. I remember listening to Bleach growing up as well. Funny, I've not listened to Nevermind a great deal. I mean, I remember songs off Nevermind, but I always remember listening to Incesticide or Bleach more. And that was when I fell in love with Blue, which is my favourite Nirvana song. And then kind of like when everything went dark in my life, music just kind of went away, like everything just went away. And then when I got back into music again and listened to Nirvana again and listened to Blue again, that love for that song came back. But I always remember like listening to kind of Oasis and what else? Oasis, Nirvana, Prodigy, bands like that, and playing computer games with my brother. So we'd put like, you know, What's the Story, Morning Glory on, or Bleach, or Incesticide, or Prodigy, and play Resident Evil, or Doom, you know, on the PS1, or yeah, it would have been PS1 at that point, wouldn't it? And you know, that's what it reminds me of. That's what that music is for me, and that's why it's really important to me, and that's why I love it. And again, I grew up listening to Oasis. Didn't like Blur. I still don't get on with Blur. They just don't click with me at all. There's not a single song of theirs where I'm like, that's good. Yeah, I just don't like it. It doesn't click with me at all. Bands like the Verve I like, but only a certain amount of songs. Oasis are just that band that kind of clicked with me. You know what I mean? And they clicked with so many people. You know what I mean? It's I love that I'm saying, do you know what I mean as well? Anyway, but yeah. And they really did that, but like I said, I remember so clearly playing Resident Evil for the first time and watching my brother complete it for the first time, listening to What's the Story, Morning Glory, or this and the other, and it's just like, that's the sound of my childhood, and it really is. And every time I put it on, it warms me inside. It's such a lovely feeling, and I'm so grateful to have lived and grown up in that era of that, that real kind of like pre-internet age of music. It's so cool. Anyway, that's my favourite band of the Britpop era, and that's why. And I could talk about it forever, so I'm going to stop there because I will talk about it more. But anyway, PeopleTube, I hope this question's okay. That's the end of this A&Q. If you want to submit a question for A&Q, description box below, email link, email me there, I will get to it. Is there anything else I need to say? I don't think there is, no. So, thank you very much, PeopleTube. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, good evening. And, PeopleTube, before I go, last part of question 4 to you. What was your favourite Britpop band? For people who were around in that time, in the 90s, who was your favourite Britpop band and why? Like I say, mine was Oasis. They just clicked with me. They just worked for me. I remember hearing Wonderwall for the first time as well, and I remember seeing the video on Top of the Pops and stuff like that, and Hello, and lovely memories. It actually starts to choke me up if I think about it. It really does start to choke me up because it was just such a gorgeous time. I was talking to my sister about this as well the other week, and I was just saying like how it just seemed to be like pre-internet age. It was like that last. Everything just seemed easy. I don't know. It just seemed to be a lot more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic, most probably. But hey, if you can't be nostalgic about how you grew up and when you grew up, what's the point? Anyway. Yeah, let me know which was your favourite Britpop band, PeopleTube. Like I say, especially if you grew up in that era, which one was it? Like I say, it's kind of choking me up now. I'm thinking about things too much, but I'm gonna go off, PeopleTube. Anyway, have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and goodbye now. Thank you much indeed for watching.